Hello. Sorry. Hello, Mr. Kirk. My name is Alex. A question I had for you: the Trump administration recently has been initiating deportation proceedings against lawfully present immigrants for what is clearly constitutionally protected speech. Do you think that that's consistent with our Constitution and our values as...
You feel the intensity here. The way the points are being presented on immigration policies, it's actually really eye-opening. You've got people on both sides super passionate and confident, but also raising serious concerns. And honestly, it makes me think about how much these policies impact real lives. We often hear numbers, percentages, or political arguments, but behind all that, there are human stories, families, and communities affected by these decisions. I also like how they're framing their points. Some of them are very logical, very structured, but then there's a hint of bias depending on which side you look at. It's fascinating to see this balance, and it really sets the tone for the rest of the discussion. Personally, this makes me reflect. Immigration isn't a single-issue topic. It's politics, security, economy, human rights, all tangled together. And the examples being shown here make it clear how complicated it can get. So for me, this first part really hooks the viewer. You immediately realize that this isn't a simple yes or no debate. There are layers, and you can't just pick a side without understanding the full context.
Americans.
Got it. So I wasn't sure what, so there's like 5 cases that you could have went with, but I'm guessing you're talking about Mahmoud Khalil and the students, right?
Mahmoud Khalil is one case, but recently student visas have been revoked at this campus and at the University of Michigan.
I'm glad they're revoked here. So yes, of course it's consistent with the Constitution because they're not U.S. citizens, they're visitors. So as a visitor, you have to be a visitor on our terms. And if you break that compact, you are returned back to your country of origin. A student visa is a conditional invitation. We're gonna see who you are, how you act, and how you behave. And if you behave in a way that the government deems to be unsatisfactory, of course you're going to be returned back to your country of origin.
What I would say to that, one, the Supreme Court and our Constitution is very clear that constitutional rights apply to everyone within the United States' jurisdiction.
To a limited extent. For example, you're correct. If a student on Michigan State campus has a student visa and they get charged with a crime, they get due process. You are correct. They get Fifth Amendment rights. But can they own a gun?
I think restrictions on their ownership of firearms
Can they vote?
Constitutional. They cannot vote.
So there are restrictions on rights for visitors. So to an extent, you are correct, but it is not the same rights that we as U.S. citizens are granted. Does that make sense? There are limitations on those rights.
That makes sense, particularly in the exercise of political rights, like voting, which is an exercise of political power.
But second to that is also political advocacy. As a visitor, you do not have unlimited free speech rights. You don't. They are conditional to you being expelled. And the specific act that you're talking about says that if the government deems the speech of the individual to be contrary to U.S. foreign policy interests, which I think advocating for Hamas is against the U.S. foreign policy interest.
Now, as we move a little further into the video, things are really picking up. The stats and examples being mentioned, they actually make this discussion hit home. You see the real-world consequences of these policies and the arguments themselves. Sometimes I find myself agreeing, other times I'm thinking, that's a bit one-sided. But that's exactly what makes this so engaging. You have to really pay attention. And the personal stories, they're powerful. Policies can sound abstract, but these stories remind you that it's affecting actual people. That's something that often gets overlooked in debates like this. Watching this section, I'm also thinking about the long-term impact. Policies today don't just disappear, they shape communities, economies, and even future politics. And understanding these ripple effects is crucial. So this part really makes me reflect. How do we balance human concerns with political and economic strategies? And honestly, it's not easy. That's why debates like this are so important. They make you think critically instead of just taking one side.
Then we can send you back to your country of origin. Now, you would have a case if we were all of a sudden deporting or imprisoning U.S. citizens. I would be right there with you saying that you can support Hamas all you want as a U.S. citizen. You have a right to do that. But if you're a visitor, you're here on a trial basis. Your tryout is going, we're looking at how you're behaving, and if we look as if that it's inconsistent with how we want people to assimilate to this country, then you go back to Libya or Syria or wherever you're from.
I'd like to make 2 points in response to that. First, the Supreme Court at least suggested in a case called Kleindienst versus Mandel in the 1950s that the First Amendment does apply to immigrants, to people who are not citizens, and that they do receive First Amendment protections. But second, I want you to think about the kind of country we live in. If the Secretary of State can deport any non-citizen they want for their speech, you would have police and ICE going up to people at protests on campuses, including protests you might agree with, and asking people for their papers. I think that that's completely inconsistent with the values you've talked about of freedom of speech. And I think that's not the kind of country that most people would want to live in.
It's a fair point. I have a different perspective. Do you think there should be any? Let's just push your contention to the largest possible logical extreme. Should we be able to have any reason to deport a student who here's on visa?
Yes, absolutely.
What would that mean? By what criteria would it be? Probably like committing a crime, right?
If they commit a crime,
Fair
if they
enough.
committed a visa application fraud,
Great.
there's many reasons
So
that you can
if
deport people.
so let's like wind the clock back a little bit to maybe World War II. And let's say that a student, this is a hypothetical, so it's not a great one. Let's actually do more recent. Let's say during the like Iraq-Afghanistan war, okay? Where we were in a bitter battle against Al-Qaeda right after 9/11. I don't think we ever should have invaded Iraq for the record, but that's a separate issue. Let's say a student was here on a student visa from Afghanistan saying that they support Al-Qaeda. Is that worth?
All right, now we're getting into the later part of the debate, and wow. Some points here are really thought-provoking. The counter-arguments are strong, and you can see how every argument has a response waiting. One thing I really like is how it forces the viewer to analyze. It's not about simply agreeing or disagreeing. It's about thinking, questioning, and really trying to understand the consequences. And again, the human element really comes through here. Every statistic is tied to people's lives, jobs, families, and communities. It's not just numbers on a board, it's reality. Watching this section, I'm also thinking about solutions. Are there ways to make these policies more effective while still considering human impact? It's definitely challenging, but that's what makes this debate educational and engaging. Honestly, this part makes me want to pause and reflect. If I were in a policymaker's shoes, how would I handle these complex issues? There's no easy answer, and that's the beauty of this discussion.
I would say it would depend on the factual circumstances. If you could prove that they gave material support to Al-Qaeda,
Well, by
then they obviously should go.
advocating for Al-Qaeda as a student visa.
Mere advocacy, I would say should not warrant deportation.
Okay,
But
we just disagreed. That's fine.
but I would say it's worth pointing out that the Trump administration is not invoking the provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act that allows you to deport people for supporting terrorism. They are not invoking that. They are invoking instead
The Secretary
yeah,
of
the
State
Secretary
provision.
Of State.
Yeah, no, I'm aware.
So if all these people supported terrorism, why not invoke the provision that says you can deport people?
Well, you guys can come up. Come wait in line.
terrorism.
It's fine. Okay, we'll send some medical help. Got it. Let's not draw our eyes there. It actually makes it worse. So let's just keep going. Pray for that person. We'll get them medical help. Thank you, guys. More attention actually makes these situations sometimes worse. So we just disagree, and that's fine. I believe that if you are on campus advocating for Hamas, that basically you as a visitor should not come to this country, period.
All right.
I think it's a pretty simple claim.
Last brief point, Mahmoud Khalil was a lawful permanent resident with green card. Does that change your analysis at all? You're fine
No.
with so he's not necessarily a guest in the same way as someone with the
Well,
student
a
visa.
green card is a guest. It's not a U.S. citizen.
Okay, so if you're fine, would you be fine with Kamala Harris if she was elected president, saying my foreign policy interest is we're against racism, so we will be deporting any conservative
That's the best
student on
argument you can make.
campus?
That's the best argument that you've made.
So what would your argument be to a hypothetical President Harris?
To a hypothetical, I mean, first of all, is racism a foreign policy objective of the U.S. government? I mean, under Kamala Harris, I could see her saying something as insane as that.
I mean,
So-
the Trump
No, I'm saying
administration cited
you're-
anti-Semitism,
you're
which is
ma-
basically the same thing.
You're making a good point.
Okay. All right, thank you. So you would have no principled response to a hypothetical President Harris?
My principled response would be, that's not a national security foe that you could target, like Hamas. However, to your point, could this provision be abused in the future? Yes. Why am I largely in support of it? Even more than the specifics, I think we need to push back on this idea that you can behave however you want while you're a visitor, and there's nothing we can do to expel you. That's my larger macro premise, that while you are a student here or whatever, a visitor, we have a right to send you back to your country of origin if you don't fit into agreed upon American values. But you made a good point. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
And now as we reach the end of the debate, wow, the final points really tie everything together. It's clear how layered and complex immigration issues are. Every side has valid concerns, and every counterpoint has merit. Personally, I feel like this final section encourages critical thinking. It's not just about absorbing information, it's about questioning, analyzing, and understanding the broader impact of policies. And honestly, seeing the debate end like this reminds me how important it is to approach every issue from multiple angles. You can't just pick a side without fully understanding the implications. This video has been informative, yes, but more than that, it's thought-provoking. It challenges viewers to think deeper, reflect, and expand their perspective. And that's why debates like this are so valuable. They make you more aware and encourage you to engage critically with real-world issues. So overall, my takeaway? Immigration policies are complex, discussions are layered, and every viewpoint deserves consideration. And for you guys watching, take a moment. Think critically, question, and form your own perspective. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Also, comment down below your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective.